Everybody. I know it's not the ideal start time, but we are starting tonight. And we are back to Cyberpunk, which I realize I have not done in quite a while. Not for any dislike of the game, but that's just kind of how it's turned out. So I will get a little bit of housekeeping out of the way just to, I don't know, well, it's probably not bad to do it at least once at the start, once at the end, and maybe in the middle if I can as well. So I will be out of the country for the majority of August, the majority of next month. I actually am facing a lot of pressure to get everything ready for that. So I am going to do my best to revive Snow. Wonderful to see you. You're the first one in, so I can't talk about what a wonderful streamer you are to too many people, but I am happy to see you here nonetheless. I hope you're doing well. But yeah, out of the country for most of August. I'm going to have a lot of... excuse me. I'm going to have a lot of prep to do for that, which is one of the reasons why the stream times have been quite late as of late. But I think I've settled unintentionally, but I kind of settled into a new equilibrium here. So I think most likely we're going to be focusing on Tyranny for a while. And then Fridays will be Cyberpunk. And that doesn't mean, it doesn't have to be sort of set forever. There'll be, some different ways that we can change it up or balance it out. But I like, I don't know, I like Tyranny. I think it'll be, I like the game Tyranny. I think it'll be a decent setup for some other things that I've got sort of planned down the road. And more importantly, I think the chance to do something like Cyberpunk on occasion, it's another role-playing game in one sense, but it's a very different kind of role-playing game compared to something like Tyranny or Baldur's Gate or Torment or something like that. So I think I'm hoping that it'll give sort of enough of a balance in terms of material that there'll be a little something for everyone. The only thing I'll say about Cyberpunk is that I do kind of wish I was talking about more Cyberpunk things, during the game than before. And one of the drawbacks is I need to get over the feeling of having said something once before, I can never say it again. That is generally not helpful. It's not helpful in the broadcast. It's not even helpful in work. And these are some situations where there's a credible... of course I read read agreements without signing. Oh, for heaven's sake. No, I don't want your... My God. Right, we're going to be heading into an interrogation right away. So, yeah, I don't know. How do I put this? Like, there is definitely a challenge I find where, I don't like the idea of repeating myself too much. I kind of need to it's not to say that I don't do it. I clearly do, but it's more the idea that I do feel quite self-conscious about it, let's say. And what I tend to find is that, what this will mean is that sometimes a point that someone might have liked is something that I don't say. So a good example of this was there was something at work that I was talking about, and, I was giving an example to a coworker. I said, it's like, I sometimes get a little worried that maybe I'm spamming the group chat a little too much. It's turning into a personal blog. There's a coworker who'd sort of insinuated as much. I said, but on the other hand, I don't want to, I don't know how many people know about, and then I said something that was in the news that morning. And then a coworker from across the room turned around and was like, wait, that really happened? And then my other coworker's like, yeah, I didn't know that happened. It's like, okay, the point is made, right? Like, clearly I should not be assuming that everyone knows or reads the same news that I do. But on the other hand, I don't, there's some people who are really kind and do watch everything. And I don't want it to get too repetitive for them either. So I don't know. I'll try and come up with a better way of dividing all of it. But what it does mean is that for some of the Cyberpunk stuff that I've been talking about in the past in this game, having started the game once and talking about a set of things, and having played Phantom Liberty and have talked about maybe those things a second time, bringing it up a third time sometimes isn't always the... it just feels a little strange. But I did run into a couple of things. I don't think I've actually talked about some of the Neuromancer. It's not even really news, but some of the developments for Neuromancer. And I was watching some old music videos. I quite like the musician Aphex Twin, and I was kind of watching some of the music videos, horrifying a friend with them actually. But one of the things that was kind of interesting was there was apparently probably some of the more famous Aphex Twin videos. So these are the really old ones. These were by a director named Chris Cunningham. Seemed like a supremely talented guy. I don't know how much of this is rumor or how much of this is based off of actual direct experiences with him, but I've seen a few bits and pieces about some of these either live projects or installations, the sort of thing that just doesn't get a lot of distribution online. So the guy seems to be active, but I've also heard at least a rumor that he's full of ideas and will very much jump from one sort of big exciting project to another one. And at least this was someone's account for why there didn't seem to be a lot of material from this creator. I don't know how much that is true, but certainly it would explain sort of the kind of the empty period. But I mean, there was, I'm trying to remember what company did this, but there were there's a whole, I'd say probably 2 generations of filmmakers now, but who kind of came up through music videos and commercials, did really well. So Ridley Scott is probably one of the better known examples of this. And then he's got his company, Ridley Scott Associates, which just seems to just have this really deep bench of talent. And not everybody comes out of that shop, but definitely there's a lot there. But, there was this collection called the Director's Label. And so David Fincher is another example of someone who successfully did that transition. But the Director's Label had, I think it was Spike Jonze. Now, I actually can't tell you a whole lot of what he's done recently. But he made it, there's a really interesting, again, quite an old movie, but a really interesting movie called Being John Malkovich, which is one that I remember. It's definitely, I think that's actually his first feature that he's done. But anyways, it's a really good one. It was written by a writer called Charlie Kaufman, who's a director now. And Charlie Kaufman definitely does a very, almost kind of, I don't want to say a Philip K. Dickian style story, but definitely you can see enough of an influence there for it to, there's, I think people who like those kinds of stories will like Charlie Kaufman movies. Another older one that he did, which he was writer for, actually I think Spike Jonze directed, but it's Adaptation, which I actually think is there's some pretty good, pretty good movies about writing. So The Bad and the Beautiful would be one. Adaptation's a good one. Barton Fink. I was trying to think. There was one other one that I was... Oh, 8.5 is probably a really famous example. That one I can sort of see why people... So most of those other ones that I talked about, beyond the fact that The Bad and the Beautiful is a 1950s movie, so, if you don't have a taste for melodrama or you tend not to like that certain style, you may not enjoy it. Barton Fink's a little bit weird, but I think it's acceptably weird, so I think most people can get on board with it. But there's actually, again, it's funny, you'd think that would be... Oh, The Player is the one I'm thinking of. That's another example. So sometimes when you see Hollywood doing Hollywood, especially when it's something like the Oscars, it's very navel-gazy, it's self-congratulatory, it's usually not that interesting. There's actually some really good movies about movies or movies about writing, and I don't know why. Maybe I'm just kind of a sucker for them. There's definitely some types of movies that I really really like, and I kind of keep um, looking at over and over again. But anyways, so for better or worse, there was this set of directors who kind of came up through commercials, and some of them did eventually move on to some rather successful film careers. Some didn't actually, which was a bit of a shame because you could clearly see the talent there, but not everybody necessarily crosses over into features. So in that series, there's Spike Jonze. I think he did the Christopher Walken video. I think it was Weapon of Choice, and that one actually has a Dune line in it. So it was kind of funny when Walken was cast as Shaddam the Fourth in Dune. Michel Gondry. So he did the one I know him for, and because there seemed to be a while where like every woman I met like loved Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, which I think is a very good movie. But it's like it was weird. Like it felt like everybody had sort of conspired to watch the same movie and talk to me about it. And what's the other one? Mark Romanek, I think, had one of, or was he one of the ones in the Director's Label series? Because there were two sets. Mark Romanek did one of, I'm trying to remember, it was one of his first serious roles. It's definitely one of his first villainous roles. 1 Hour Photo with Robin Williams. That was quite a good one. But that one seemed to be another kind of example of sort of failure to launch in terms of a successful commercial music video career to features. But the one that so the reason why I know a lot of this Chris Cunningham stuff is because part of that series, Chris Cunningham was in it. Now, so far as I can tell, Chris Cunningham has not transitioned into any kind of like Hollywood project. But he did do some sort of famous Aphex Twin videos. He did one for Bjork with a couple of robots. What else? I think his last video is like, it's probably a couple decades old. It's by a band called The Horrors. I think Sheena is a Parasite. And trying to think if he did something else for, I think the only ones I can yeah, one of his first ones was for a different band, but there's a bunch of shorts that he did, which probably were like the last period of kind of public creativity. Those are maybe the ones that he'd maybe be a little bit better known for. But he was at one point attached to a Neuromancer project, and it seemed to be one that William Gibson had expressed some enthusiasm for. And of course, it, like many Neuromancer projects, it fell apart. But I did learn that apparently Apple is not just working on a Neuromancer adaptation, but like it's a real thing. Like there is a cast. I don't know if it's filming yet, but it seems to be that this is actually going to be the final realization of Neuromancer. I guess, is it 50 years since that book was written? 40, 50 years? It's been a long time. I don't even know if it'll be relevant anymore. But yeah, looking at that stuff, I don't know, it's kind of interesting to look at some of that stuff, because it's just, it's a bunch of what ifs, right? So it's like asking about the Stanley Kubrick Napoleon film, or the like so many famous unrealized projects, and there are filmmakers alive today in which you can sort of say some of that stuff for. So it was, again, just watching, I watched Window Liquor and Come to Daddy yesterday, and it got me thinking a little bit about not just the unrealized Neuromancer project, but also the fact that we have one coming up. I actually think Apple TV Plus is a bit of an underrated streaming service. Slow Horses is great. I actually kind of like the morning show, but I can see why that may not be everyone's cup of tea. I thought, I haven't seen the third season, but For All Mankind was excellent. What else? Slow Horses is probably my favorite so far. Um, I'm so far enjoying Severance, but I also sort of think that Severance is a little bit of a victim of its own success. It's getting to kind of like what the one problem with TV right now is that there's so much good stuff and everybody's got their show. And if you haven't seen it, people are going to be like, oh my God, you haven't lived. And then, of course, because, the show doesn't change your life, it's inevitably going to suffer for the comparison. And something that you might have enjoyed if you'd found on your own, you now sort of feel badgered into watching, and it's less enjoyable. So, yeah, I don't know. So I feel like Severance is probably a bit like that. Although I thought the way they ended the first season was pretty cool. Anyways, we are ostensibly here for Cyberpunk, so I wish to recognize your previous efforts in assisting me. It seems only appropriate to award you with a permanent discount on all fares, 50% to be precise. I cannot disclose the fare amount prior to applying the discount, however. I do hope you understand. Wait, then how do I know I'm getting a discount? Yes, well, the discount is ironclad. Of that you can be certain. Oh, and your Excelsior benefits still apply. Full medical assistance and the disposal of your remains should you expire while on board. But I suppose you already knew that. Apologies, I shan't waste any more of your time. Thank you very much, Shay. I wanted to try and do both, but I forgot that I've got the interrogation, so...
Hey. Where am I? What is this place?
Motel, middle of nowhere.
Any specific middle?
Doesn't matter. You're not leaving here by yourself anyway.
Why are we here?
Want to talk about your little invention. Biochip you made for Arasaka.
Fine. But let's get one thing straight first. Yorinobu Arasaka didn't send you?
No.
This means you must have an offer for me. If your boss will pay more than Kang Tao, I believe we can talk.
Nobody sent me. I got a problem, and you're gonna help me.
And what does that have to do with the biochip?
Your tech's trying to kill me. Pretty sure that's not how it's advertised.
If you wish to file a complaint, I'll need more details.
Got Johnny Silverhand's construct stuck in my head, and I don't want it there.
Silverhand? Construct? That's impossible. Where did you get this biochip?
Klept it off Yorinobu Arasaka. Job for a client. But the client left me out
And
to dry.
you decided the best place for it was in your own goddamn head.
Actually, wasn't a bad idea. Construct rebooted me when my own goddamn head took a bullet.
I always knew Yorinobu's plan would fail. I just never imagined it would turn out like this. Arasaka's prized tech really is in the very streets of the city.
You have to remove the biochip from my system.
It's not that simple.
Look, you made the thing, didn't you? So where's the problem?
If you're telling the truth, you slotted in a new experimental version of the biochip.
I know you can't just yank it out. My Ripper
You
said...
showed that to some fucking street doctor? Who else knows?
I needed help. Or did you think the first thing that came to mind was down in a Kang Tao AV? How's the prototype version different? It's got a different engram, something more...
Where?
Aggressive?
The biochip is what's unique, not Silverhand's engram. The previous version of the chip was only used to communicate with pre-saved engrams.
And it was rare as fuck and cost a fortune. Yeah.
This one's rarer. Meant to install and activate the engram in a new body. When I left Arasaka, the project was still in the trial phase.
How exactly was this new version supposed to work? Were you planning to have the engram kick people out of their own bodies? Is that shit by design?
During the tests, we assumed that the body would be neurally indifferent during implantation.
You mean dead?
Yes, which makes what happened to you interesting indeed.
How do you put a price on immortality? Who could even afford tech like this?
Nobody. This model was meant to remain in-house. The prototype was Saburo Arasaka's personal commission. He oversaw the entire project himself.
So if it weren't for Yorinobu, nobody would have found out.
And if not for you, the project would not have been a success. This is a true breakthrough.
Yeah, great. Your tech works. Now get it out of me.
Well.
I would have to see it first.
Whoa, we just met. Haven't built up that sort of trust yet.
How did you think this was going to go? If you want me to help you, I must examine you.
Okay.
Unbelievable. It looks like...
Can't believe this suit's the one who's gonna help us.
Oh, fuck.
What? What is it?
What a pity I won't be able to examine it fully.
Yeah, real shame. You could have been his guinea pig too.
Tell me how to get rid of it.
I'm afraid I have bad news. Your neural network has completely deteriorated. It can no longer function independently of the chip. The only thing I could do
Woohoo, it's bargaining time.
is to give you information on a good clinic in Sweden. They'll help you through the terminal stages. Minimize the pain.
Wait, you said the project was in the trial phase. You don't actually know how it'll end.
Oh, I do. I just saw the construct devouring your brain. It's programmed to take over its new environment. At all costs. And your little meat brain is helpless against it.
So no matter what, sooner or later the engram wins.
Yes. And from what I've heard about Silverhand, that seems to be exactly his style.
Huh. I see my reputation's grown into Arasaka legend.
What exactly is going on in my head?
You tell me, what's it like to have two personalities? Because it's not like you're hearing voices. You're both yourself and Silverhand simultaneously.
Ain't just about Silverhand anymore. Rogue Algos from beyond the Blackwall flipped new switches within the relic.
What? How could that be?
Is it possible someone who connected to the Blackwall and the relic could have left a back door for something malicious to sneak onto the chip?
This I do not know. The Black Wall, it is terra incognita to me. I know just that whatever lies behind it must remain there, at all costs. At this moment, Silverhand remains your greatest problem. Two psyches molding into one. Or is it one psyche cleaving in two?
Kind of sounds like that's recorded after Phantom Liberty.
I can see him and talk to him.
You're not talking, but yes, I understand what you mean. Have you noticed the construct's influence on your decision-making?
Sheesh, give it a rest.
When it comes to my decisions, Johnny really is just a voice in my head. Maybe he has a different opinion, but he can't make me do anything.
Agreed 100%. You are one fucking stubborn
It's not as if
host.
one of you wins the debate. The scale simply shifts, slowly but surely.
What do you mean?
You will start doing things that were once unthinkable, at least to your old self. And you know exactly who he was. A fanatic, a terrorist, a suicide bomber.
Well, fuck me. Who's trying to mess with your head now?
That is why I believe it would be better for you to consider clinical isolation at this stage.
At least Johnny never whored himself out like you.
Are you defending him? Or is that Johnny speaking now? Oh, let me guess. He already tried to take over your body. You know, just for a little while.
No.
Would you, though? Could be fun.
Johnny,
Kidding. But watch out. Suit's getting ready to talk your head off.
know what? That's enough. You just playing for time? Because I can't tell. Are you trying to convince me you're useless? So, I mean, in that case, I can just shoot you in the head and save us both some time.
Ah, finally.